Yeah, so I've just got the GoPro. I just got to send Alan my link so he can see. I'll send him. Where are we? Peter Surfboards. Edit channel. I hate this. I always forget where to find it. Your channel. Here we go. Sorry. And I'll send that link. Share. Copy link. Here we go. Send it to Alan. He's just. Paste. There we go. I'm just letting Alan know that I'm polishing Natalie's board now. And I'm just going to, I've got the head strap one on so you can just see the side of my face. Sorry for that, I apologise for that, my buff head. But you can see everything else. Bit of glue. That holds that together for when I'm wet and drying. Very important. That one's an old one. That's going to go in the bin. The bin's outside. I washed it out, but it will be cleaned up in here later. Now, what I do here, so I'll just put that up a little bit. There we go. Just going in my eyes. Now we've got to go shopping today. We do for Kim's mum and my dad, our elderly parents. They're both, Kim's mum's 87, my dad's 90 in a couple of months, and we're their sort of carers to a point. We are, but we try and give them as much independence as they can. But so far this week, we've had doctor's appointments with Kim's mum. We've had it every day this week. So it's fine, because that's why we work at home, and that's why I structure it the way I do. It's so let's turn it down a touch. That's the why we structure it the way we do, so we can care for our parents, work for ourselves, and yeah. Anyway, that's part of the deal. The stuff we do, as all the carers. We do it for Louise as well. Right, 400. I saw my paper. 800. And then 1200. Okay, that's sorted there. Takes about just under 2 hours to polish a board. Excuse me, I can't really get it done any quicker. Just one of those things. That's how long it takes. It's about to go up now, another 50 for the polish jobs. Only because everything's going up, all the materials are just going through the roof. It's crazy. But it's part of what's happening with the downturn post-COVID. We all knew this was coming, and I think because the surfboard industry, because we were so busy, busiest have been in years, everyone started thinking, oh, this is going to be like this forever. But no, it's not. We're about to see how I knock these uppers down. There we go. See that little upper? You just knock it down with the 180. This one here, watch this. Ready? See how you take it down? That's with a hard pad and a bit of 180. It only takes a second. Now I can get back to 400. Right. Now comes the wet and dry. Oh, I better put my apron on. Good one, Peter. Yeah, so there's the inside. I always wear my apron. I bought these new sort of like work boots. They're cheap ones, so they're really lightweight. I bought a pair of expensive gum boots, cut them down, and they were just too heavy. I only needed the shit lightweight pair, but this means I won't, because your normal joggers that you wear aren't really good for around water, and that's what wrecks them pretty quick. So I decided when I'm polishing, I'll just wear these. They're waterproof, so excuse me, I should get a good, better life out of them. But my joggers, even though I get resin all over them, they just stuff up so quick once they get wet. So yeah, so all I'm doing here is wet and drying the bead down. This takes time. There's no excuse me. There's no quick way of doing it. There's no quick way of doing it, unfortunately. It's just I'll do this for another half hour or so, then we'll have to go shopping and then come back just after lunch and I'll finish polishing it. And looks nice. I'm really happy with this one too. It's a really lovely yellow that Natalie picked out. She come up here and it was funny, she had to bring the bub up to do the colour confirmation, so she just sat in the office chair and I just brought the samples into the house as we were mixing them up, and then eventually we got the right colour and that was it. So they sat in front of the heater. So that was the first time we've had a baby with a colour matching. That was funny. Yeah, so this part is pretty time consuming, but it's one of the most important parts of the polish job, because if you don't wet and dry this properly, you can get through all the wet and drying, start polishing, and then you can polish this bit here and it won't be flat, or it'll have a ripple in it or something. So this is like the foundation of the polish job. I'm making sure there's no lumps, making sure it's perfectly flat. So this is 400 grit. Okay, this is like, it's taking the wax, which is on the surface, which makes it not sticky. It's taking that off. And if there's any little lines or anything in the finish coat, which you do get, they're not always perfectly flat or something, and this just gets it perfect. So it's like a sheet of glass, basically. But as I say, this is the part that you cannot rush. It's overlooked as being important. It's not, everyone thinks shaping's the be all and end. I can shape anything. And I hate the shapers that can't and have these massive reputations, and they're sort of basically all bullshit. But no, I can walk into any factory and shape anything. But this, and that's how you call yourself a shaper. It's like if you're a, to give you an example, you don't call yourself a shaper unless you can walk into any factory in the world, get given the specs, and shape a board for that person or what they want. Okay, that's called a shaper. And I'll relate it to this. I got a, let's say you're an excavator driver. Okay, now to get a license, you have to be trained so you can walk into any job and hop in any excavator and dig any hole. That's what you are when you're a qualified excavator driver. Okay, now I know a few. Casey comes to mind straight away. He's been doing it for years, his family business. Now he's a qualified excavator driver, which means he could go to any job and fucking dig any hole and drive any machinery because he's qualified. And he's what we call, what does he call? He calls himself a dirt, forget what it was. It was dirt jockey or something like that. Anyway, but he's qualified. Now the same thing should go for shaping. You shouldn't be allowed to use the term you're a shaper unless you can, walk into any factory, get given any specs and shape any board and pass it. You should be called what we call an apprentice if you're learning, but not the term shaper. That's why I hate someone saying shaper, because it's the term has been watered down so much to be worthless. It's absolutely worthless being called a shaper these days, because there are so many people calling themselves shapers and they couldn't do that. They couldn't walk into any factory. And some people say, oh, that's a bit... No, because when I was 15, I did an apprenticeship as a boilermaker. Now I did it till I was 19 and we got laid off. Now I got trained at the BHP, which is probably one of the best places in the world to get trained. And I'm a qualified boilermaker. But I got laid off at 19, went on the Bob Hawke surf team, on the Dole, surfing every day and making boards. So, but I'm a qualified boilermaker. I spent 4 years learning it. So no, it's not harsh. I hate the fact that our industry is not regulated. And when I say regulated, anyone can call themselves a shaper. You can go to Bunnings and buy a shaping fucking a planer and you can call yourself a shaper. Okay? It's really disgusts me. I fucking hate it. Because if you put in the years of learning something and then people come along and say, oh, I'm a shaper, fucking shits me to no end. I've even heard of some of the biggest companies in the world, right? This is the part that shits me the most, that world champions have been riding and they get other people to shape their guns. They don't do it themselves. Not because they're busy, it's because they can't fucking do it. And that's what shits me. How the fuck wouldn't you shape guns for your fucking world champion surfers? I know for a fact one company got someone I know in to shape all their, semi-guns and everything. What a joke. I can't believe that. And they call them, and they were voted shaper, shapers of the year and all that bullshit. So that term means as much as, piece of shit, basically. Shaper. Just to clarify, because a lot of people think, the term shaper is such a great term, but not anymore. Unfortunately, not anymore. I know a lot of people won't like that, but it's the fucking truth. One sparrow doesn't make a summer. And I think people have got to start calling people out on it. I really That's why I do the Instagram and live feeds, to show people I do it. I'm not paying anyone else to do it. I would never pay anyone else to do it. I do it myself. Yeah, so anyway, that's how I stand. That's where I stand with this whole industry at the moment. It's just so watered down. It's like light beer now. Surfboard industry. It's like light beer, and no one's willing to do the hard work. And yeah, unfortunately, it's true. And the reason why a lot of people will never say it is because most of the people that will never say it are the ones I'm talking about, that call themselves, and I think people should be tested. I honestly think before you can fucking use the term, you've got to be able to shape everything from a knee board to a surf lifesaving paddle board to a mal to a glider to a pig to a anything, an old V bottom or anything, you know, or a short board, fish. You've got to be able to shape everything to be a shaper. Imagine being a dressmaker but only being able to make one dress. I used to make clothes years ago where we had a clothing label, and we used to make suits and gowns and all sorts of things. But imagine being able to only make t-shirts and calling yourself a clothing manufacturer when you're just making a t-shirt, you know, or a designer, you know. But that's the way it is now. But it doesn't matter. I mean, no one's going to worry because it's the way the world, I suppose, the world is now. It's you can be whatever you want. You don't need to be qualified. Say it enough times and people start believing it. But shaper, yep. Hate the term. Hate it. Board maker I love, because that means you do all this shit. And you can't call yourself a board maker unless you can make boards. That's why I encourage people to glass your own boards, because sending a board off to a glass shop is not board making. So, you know, I really want to encourage people to glass their own boards. We don't need glass shops. Make your own boards. I know, I remember a person I knew used to import boards from USA, and of supposedly U-Butte factories. Now, I used to have to repair some of the boards that come in. Now, you should have seen that one board, I nearly refused to do it because I thought, get fucked. You paid thousands of dollars for this and it's shit. It wouldn't even be passed in a factory as a first, and they sent it to Australia. I couldn't believe it. The finish coat was all buffed through and there was all problems with it. And there was a little bubble under the sticker, but fuck me dead. That's why glass shops, I used to have one. I used to do the 50 a week thing and got off at 200 a week. And I couldn't get the workers to do what I wanted them to do. They just kept falling short. So I just left the business. I said, see you later. You guys can stick together. I said to my ex-partner at the time, the guy, I said, mate, I'm out of here. They kept the business going for another 6 months and it went under because they had no quality control. I'll tell you how it happened, little story. What used to happen is I used to pay, I had 4 guys working for me and they used to get nearly $1,000 a week. Anyway, they got good money. A couple of them got 1,000, a couple got maybe 600. And the wet and dry maybe 400. But every week I used to have to fix up the fuck ups. And then one week I decided, as a batch of boards went down to Sydney, like 30 or 40 boards, I said, I'm not going to touch any of them up. And I knew they'd get rejected. And then what happened was I come in the Monday morning and the van was full. They were all out on the floor. And then my partner at the time, who highly underestimated what I was doing, said, hey Dale, look. Yeah, so that's the lady in the unit next door. She's doing horticultural. She growing cucumbers, chilies, everything. Also my missus. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, anyway, the boards were all laid on the ground and I knew they would have been rejected. And then they said, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? And then they said they're no good. And I said to each one of the workers, I said, you got paid on Friday, didn't you? For doing all this, and you got paid for doing all that. And they goes, yeah, we got paid, we got our money. And then I said, well, why the fuck are the boards here? They didn't do a good enough job, but they got paid. Anyway, that's why I don't like glass shops anymore. Had one, you tend to attract not great workers. You get a few that are really good, but you'll get a lot that are shit, and they'll pop out shit. Because they don't care, they get paid. They just chuck it in the rack, it's finished. When the guy hands it out, I remember one guy owned a company, and when the guy was polishing the board, he drilled a hole through the board instead of through the right spot, and still put it in the board bag. The guy pulled it out of the board bag at Sydney when he was delivering it, and then he seen it and just pushed it straight back in and goes, oh, wrong board. Just had to lie to the guy to say it wasn't the right board. It was, but he's seen a defect and he didn't want to have the guy notice a piece of shit made it through the factory. Righto, so that's that. Righto, so that part's done. As I say, there's a fair bit of work involved in this part. Now I'm just going to check what the time is. Oh, 9:04. Okay, righto, time for me to go. I will be back and I'll be polishing this after lunch. Here we go. Sorry, I'll go to here. No, go to here, turn